The name tag in my hands reads, Juliet Lucas, sister of the bride, the failure. I stare at those last two words written in my mother's perfect cursive, probably meant as a joke. Probably. The wedding reception swirls around me in shades of champagne and ivory, a perfect Pinterest board come to life. My sister Camilla's doing, of course. She's currently floating through the crowd in her designer gown, collecting compliments like butterflies in a net. I down my second glass of wine and try to remember why I agreed to be part of this circus. Jules! Camilla's voice cuts through the ambient chatter. Come meet Leo's work friends. I paced on my best supportive sister smile and wade through the sea of pastels and pearls. More introductions. More explaining that yes, I'm an artist, and no, I don't have a real job. More sympathetic nods when they learn I teach art to elementary school kids to pay rent. Leonardo, my new brother-in-law, wraps his arm around Camilla's waist. He's objectively handsome in that investment banker way, all sharp angles and whiter than white teeth. Jules here is our family's free spirit, he says, and everyone laughs like it's the cleverest thing they've heard all day. I excuse myself to the bathroom, needing a moment to breathe. The corridor leading to the restrooms is blessedly quiet, the music from the reception hall now just a dull thrum. That's when I spot Leonardo's phone on the decorative table outside the men's room, screen lighting up with incoming messages. I shouldn't look. I really shouldn't. But something about the preview text makes my stomach clench. I glance around, empty hallway, and pick up the phone. The messages are from someone named RW. Miss you already. Last night was incredible. Can't wait until your business trip next week. Remember to delete these messages. My hands start shaking. The timestamp shows these were sent during the ceremony, during my sister's wedding ceremony. More messages pop up, each one worse than the last. Photos I wish I could unsee. Plans for future meetups. This isn't a one-time thing, this is an ongoing affair. The bathroom door creaks. I quickly place the phone back, hands trembling so badly I nearly drop it. Leonardo emerges, adjusting his bow tie in the hallway mirror. Oh, hey, Jules, he says, reaching for his phone. Everything okay? You look pale. I force myself to meet his eyes. They're completely calm, like he hasn't just destroyed my sister's life before it really began. Everything's fine, I lie, my voice steady despite the rage building in my chest. Just needed some air. He nods, already scrolling through his phone. I watch his face change for a split second. He's seen the messages, but he just pockets the device and heads back toward the reception, whistling. The bastard is whistling. I lean against the wall, my mind racing. In the reception hall, I can hear Camilla's laugh, that pure, joyful sound I've known since we were kids. The sound that's about to shatter when she learns the truth. Because she has to learn the truth, doesn't she? My mother's voice echoes in my head. Don't make a scene, Juliet. For once in your life, don't be difficult. That's what she'll say if I speak up. That's what they all say whenever I don't play along with their perfect family narrative. But this isn't about me being difficult. This is about protecting my sister from a man who couldn't even wait until after the wedding to betray her. I pull out my phone and text Serena, my best friend. Need you. Emergency. Reception. Bathroom. Now. While I wait, I stare at my reflection in the ornate mirror. The name tag is still stuck to my bridesmaid dress, mocking me. I rip it off, crumpling the failure into a tight ball. The bathroom door opens and Serena slips in. One look at my face and she knows something's wrong. What happened? I open my mouth to tell her, but the words stick in my throat. Because saying it out loud makes it real. Because once I tell her, I can't pretend this isn't happening. Because whatever I do next will change everything. Jules? Serena touches my arm. You're scaring me. I take a deep breath and meet her eyes in the mirror. I just found out Leonardo is cheating on my sister. Has been for a while. And I have to decide right now if I'm going to blow up this entire wedding or let Camilla live in blissful ignorance. Serena's sharp intake of breath echoes off the bathroom tiles. Oh God, what are you going to do? I straighten my spine, something hardening in my chest. I'm going to do what I do best, I say, reaching for the door handle. I'm going to be difficult. Serena grabs my arm before I can storm back into the reception. Jules, wait. You need a plan. You can't just watch me. I shake free, but she blocks the door. 5 minutes, she pleads. Give me 5 minutes to think this through with you. Remember what happened at Thanksgiving? That stops me. Last time I acted on impulse at a family gathering, I'd ended up sleeping in my car for a week. But this is different. This isn't about me. Fine. 5 minutes. We huddle in the corner of the bathroom, heads together like we're back in high school plotting revenge on mean girls. Except now the mean girl is my brother-in-law, and the stakes are my sister's life. You need to tell Camilla first, Serena says. Privately, before you do anything public. She's right. Of course she's right. I check my makeup in the mirror, wiping away a smudge of mascara. I'll pull her aside. There's that little garden terrace off the main hall. But when I find Camilla, she's surrounded by a cluster of college friends all squealing over her ring. I hover at the edge of their circle, trying to catch her eye. When she finally notices me, her smile dims slightly. Jules, what's wrong? Can we talk? Privately? She follows me to the terrace. The setting sun paints everything in soft gold, making this moment feel surreal. Moths flutter around the string lights, and I think about how fragile happiness is, how easily it can be crushed. Cam, I need to tell you something about Leonardo. She crosses her arms. If this is about his job again. It's not. I saw messages on his phone. He's cheating on you. The words hang in the air between us. Camilla's face doesn't change, but her fingers tighten on her arms. What exactly did you see? I tell her everything, the texts, the photos, the plans for next week. With each detail, I watch her expression harden. Show me, she says finally. I can't. They're on his phone. So you just happened to see his private messages? My stomach drops. Cam, no, Jules. I know you've never liked Leo. I know you think I'm making a mistake, but making up lies on my wedding day? That's low even for you. The familiar acid of being dismissed burns my throat. I'm not lying. Really? Because it sounds exactly like something you'd do to prove you're right about him. She takes a step back. God, I can't believe you'd try to ruin this for me. Camilla, please. Just stop. Her voice cracks. For once in your life, just stop trying to fix everything. I'm happy. Why can't you let me be happy? She turns to go back inside, but I grab her wrist. Wait, just wait here. 2 minutes. I sprint through the reception hall, ignoring my mother's hissed Juliet as I pass. Leonardo's still by the bar with his best man, Rick. Their heads are bent together, laughing about something. Leo, I say sweetly, can I borrow your phone? My battery died, and I need to call my ride. He hesitates for a fraction of a second. Sure, Jules. He pulls it out, but before handing it over, his thumb moves quickly across the screen. Deleting messages. The bastard is deleting messages right in front of me. He hands me the phone with a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. I take it and walk away slowly, my mind racing. There has to be something left. Some proof. That's when I hear it. Rick's voice carrying just far enough. Careful, man. She's sharper than she looks. I freeze, then casually drift closer to their conversation, pretending to fiddle with the phone. It's handled, Leonardo mutters. Unlike you handling Roslyn last month. Jesus, Rick, you almost blew everything. Hey, I covered for you with that whole Miami story, didn't I? Even convinced Camilla you were at that conference when you were actually… Shut up, Leonardo hisses. Not here. My hands shake as I open his photo gallery. Most recent images deleted, messages cleared. But there, in his recently deleted folder, he forgot about that. 3 photos remain, including one of him kissing a woman who definitely isn't my sister. I quickly send the photos to my own phone, then delete the evidence of the transfer. Walking back to the bar, I return his phone with a smile that matches his. All teeth, no warmth. On the terrace, Camilla's still waiting, arms wrapped around herself. Without a word, I hold up my phone, showing her the proof she demanded. She stares at the photos for a long time. Then she looks up at me and I see something break behind her eyes. "What do we do now?" she whispers. I take her hand. "Now? Now we make him pay." The microphone feels heavy in my hand as I stand, my champagne glass tinkling against the metal. Around me, 200 faces turn expectantly, waiting for what they assume will be another saccharine toast to the happy couple. Camilla sits rigid beside Leonardo, her smile fixed in place. We spent 20 minutes in that garden terrace plotting this moment. Her words echo in my head. "Make it hurt." I clear my throat. When I was 12, Camilla broke her arm falling from our treehouse. I watched her hit the ground, and I'll never forget the sound she made, this tiny broken gasp. I'm hearing that same sound today. The room stills. Leonardo's champagne glass freezes halfway to his lips. "You see, my sister deserves a love story. Instead, she got a cautionary tale." I turn to face Leonardo directly. "Would you like to tell everyone about Roslyn? Or should I?" The colour drains from his face. In the sudden silence, someone's fork clatters against a plate. "Jules!" My mother's warning voice carries across the room. "Sit down." "No, Mom, not this time." My voice shakes, but I force myself to continue. My beautiful, brilliant sister just married a man who couldn't even wait until after the ceremony to text his girlfriend. Yes, girlfriend. Present tense. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Leonardo stands, his chair scraping against the floor. "You're drunk, Juliet, and making a fool of yourself." "Am I?" I pull out my phone. "Should we discuss the photos you forgot to permanently delete? Or maybe the Miami trip that wasn't actually a conference?" Rick, the best man, shifts uncomfortably in his seat. Our eyes meet, and something flickers across his face. Guilt, fear. "Rick knows what I'm talking about, don't you?" I watch him flinch. "Want to tell everyone what really happened in Miami?" "That's enough!" Leonardo slams his hand on the table. Crystal glasses jump, sending champagne splashing across the pristine tablecloth. But I'm not done. I have proof. Everything. The messages, the photos, the hotel receipts. "She's lying," Leonardo cuts in smoothly, addressing the stunned crowd. "Juliet has always been unstable, jealous of her sister's success. This is just another cry for attention." The familiar dismissal stings, but I stand my ground. "Really? Then you won't mind if I show everyone?" "Show them what?" He smirks and my blood runs cold. I check my phone. The photos are gone. All of them. "Looking for these?" Rick holds up his phone and I realize with horror what happened. While I was speaking, he must have remotely deleted them through the cloud sharing I'd forgotten to disable. The room starts to spin. I've lost my proof, lost my credibility, lost everything. Then Camilla stands. "I saw them," she says quietly. "The photos, the messages. I saw everything." Leonardo's head whips toward her. "Baby! Don't!" Her voice could freeze hell. "Don't you dare!" She turns to face our gathered family and friends, her wedding dress catching the light like broken glass. My sister is telling the truth. Every word. The silence shatters. Voices erupt in overlapping waves of shock and outrage. My mother's hands cover her face. Leonardo's parents huddle together, whispering frantically. "I trusted you," Camilla continues, each word precise and cutting. "I defended you. I chose you over everyone who tried to warn me, including my sister." She looks at me then, tears in her eyes. "I'm so sorry, Jules. I should have listened." Leonardo grabs her arm. "We can talk about this privately. Get your hands off my sister." The words tear from my throat before I can stop them. What happens next seems to unfold in slow motion. Rick stands, his face twisted with what looks like genuine remorse. I can't do this anymore." He pulls out his phone again, but this time he's not deleting evidence. He's sharing it. "I kept copies," he says, not meeting Leonardo's murderous glare. "Of everything, because I knew someday I'd have to make this right." Phones around the room start pinging with incoming messages. Leonardo lunges for Rick, but two of Camilla's cousins grab him before he can reach the best man. In the chaos that follows, I find myself standing still, watching my sister's wedding implode around me. I should feel triumphant, I should feel vindicated. Instead, I feel my mother's arms wrap around me from behind, the first time she's hugged me in years. "My brave girl," she whispers against my hair. "My brave, difficult, wonderful girl." And suddenly I'm 12 again, watching my sister fall, knowing the sound she's about to make. Only this time, I caught her before she hit the ground. The aftermath hits like a tsunami. Security escorts Leonardo out while guests mill around in shocked clusters, phones raised to capture every moment. I stand in the eye of the storm, watching my sister's wedding reception transform into a viral scandal in real time. "You've really done it this time." My mother's earlier warmth has evaporated. She's back to her familiar disappointed stance, arms crossed, lips pressed into a thin line. "Do you have any idea how much this wedding cost?" "Really, Mom? That's what you're worried about?" "Someone has to think practically." She gestures at the chaos around us. "The venue, the catering, the gifts." "The gifts can go back," Camilla interrupts, appearing beside me. She's changed out of her wedding dress into a simple black sheath. "Just like the ring." My mother deflates slightly. "Darling, maybe we should all take some time to..." "To what?" Camilla's voice cracks. "To pretend this didn't happen? To give him another chance?" She laughs, but it sounds more like breaking glass. "That's what you told Jules to do, isn't it? When her ex stole her artwork and sold it as his own? Take some time. Think it through. Don't be hasty." I stare at my sister. I'd never told her about that. "I heard you and Dad talking about it," she explains, catching my look. "I heard you tell Jules to let it go, to not make waves, and I said nothing." Her eyes fill with tears. I always said nothing. The weight of unspoken years hangs between us. All those times I'd fought my battles alone, thinking Camilla was just another witness to my difficult nature. "Ladies," Rick approaches cautiously, phone in hand. "We have a situation." He shows us Leonardo's latest Instagram post, a perfectly curated photo of him looking wounded but dignified, captioned with a paragraph about false accusations and family jealousy. The comments are already flooding in, taking sides. "He's trying to control the narrative," Rick explains, "and he's good at it, really good." "Of course he is," I mutter. "He's been managing his image since day one." Camilla grabs Rick's phone, scrolling through the comments. Her hands shake. "People are believing him. They're calling Jules a bitter spinster and me a gullible fool." "Honey," my mother starts, "maybe we should take this down a notch. Think about your career." "My career?" Camilla's laugh turns hysterical. "I'm an environmental lawyer, Mom. I literally fight corporate liars for a living, and I couldn't even spot one sleeping in my bed." She throws Rick's phone across the room. It hits the wall with a satisfying crack. "I'll get you a new one," she tells Rick weakly. "Don't worry about it." He runs a hand through his hair. "I owe you both way more than a phone. I should have spoken up months ago." "Why didn't you?" I ask. He won't meet my eyes. "Leonardo, he knows things. About everyone. It's how he operates. Find the weakness, exploit it, keep people in line." "What does he have on you?" Rick's silence speaks volumes. "It doesn't matter," Camilla says suddenly. "Whatever he has, whatever he says, it doesn't matter anymore. I'm done being afraid of the truth." She pulls out her own phone and starts typing furiously. Before anyone can stop her, she's posted a response to Leonardo's carefully crafted narrative. A raw, unfiltered account of everything, including screenshots Rick provided of Leonardo's other affairs. "Camilla!" Our mother looks horrified. "Take that down immediately." "No." My sister's voice is steel. "I'm done taking things down, keeping things quiet, making things easier for everyone else. Jules was right all along. Some things need to be difficult." My phone buzzes. Then again. And again. Notifications pour in as Camilla's post goes viral, spreading across platforms like wildfire. "Oh, God," my mother moans. "The press will be all over this. Both your firms will..." "Good," Camilla and I say simultaneously. We look at each other and something shifts between us. Years of careful distance crumbling in an instant. She reaches for my hand. I need your help, Jules. Not just with Leonardo, but with everything after. I need my sister back. I never left, I whisper. I know. I was the one who stayed away. Trying to be perfect, trying to not rock the boat. She squeezes my hand. Teach me how to make waves. Behind us, our mother is still talking about damage control, about family reputation, about taking things offline. But for the first time in years, neither of us is listening. First lesson, I tell Camilla, a smile spreading across my face. The boat deserves to be rocked. She grins back, fierce and broken and beautiful. Then let's cause a storm. 3 days after the wedding explosion, I wake to find my art studio's front window shattered. Glass crunches under my boots as I step inside, heart pounding. The damage isn't random. My latest paintings, the series I've been working on for months, are slashed to ribbons. I touch one canvas, fingers trembling. The cuts are precise, surgical, professional. My phone rings. Camilla. Turn on the news, she says without preamble. Now. I pull up the local news site on my phone. Leonardo's smiling face fills the screen as he stands outside his law firm, looking every bit the wronged party. The headline makes my stomach turn. Prominent attorney speaks out about wedding scandal. Claims systematic harassment. He's saying we're orchestrating a smear campaign, Camilla's voice shakes, that we're doctoring evidence, manipulating Rick, trying to destroy his reputation out of family jealousy. I look around my destroyed studio. Yeah, I'm getting that message loud and clear. What do you mean? Before I can answer, the bell above my door chimes. I spin around to find Roslyn, Leonardo's not-so-secret girlfriend, standing among the broken glass. I'll call you back, I tell Camilla, ending the call despite her protests. Roslyn surveys the destruction, her face unreadable. She's exactly as beautiful as her photos suggested, but there's something hard in her eyes that the camera missed. Let me guess, I say. Leonardo sent you to threaten me? She laughs, but there's no humor in it. Leonardo doesn't send me anywhere. That's kind of the problem. She perches on my paint-splattered work table, incongruous in her designer outfit. You know what's funny? I actually came to thank you. Thank me for blowing everything up. I've been trying to end things with Leo for months, but he always had a way of making that difficult. The way she says difficult makes my skin crawl. What did he do? What didn't he do? She pulls out her phone, showing me texts, emails, photos, a digital paper trail of manipulation and threats. Every time I tried to leave, he'd remind me how easily he could ruin me. My job, my reputation, everything. Why are you showing me this? Because you need to understand what you're dealing with. That stunt at the wedding, the viral posts, that's just the beginning. Leo doesn't lose. Ever. As if on cue, my phone buzzes with a text from Rick. Check your email. Emergency. I open my inbox to find a cease and desist letter from Leonardo's firm, threatening legal action for defamation. But it's the next email that makes my blood run cold. A message from the elementary school where I teach art, requesting an immediate meeting about my recent public behavior. He's going after your job, Roslyn says softly. Just like he went after your studio. Just like he'll go after everything else until you and your sister back down. We won't. Then be smarter than I was. She slides off the table. Don't fight him in the open. He's got too much practice looking like the good guy. So what, we just let him win? No. Her smile turns sharp. We find his weakness. The one thing he can't spin or charm his way out of. I think about Rick's words at the wedding. Leonardo knows things. About everyone. The evidence Rick shared, I say slowly. That wasn't everything, was it? Not even close. Roslyn pulls a small USB drive from her purse. Leo likes to keep receipts. Insurance, he calls it. Against clients, colleagues, friends, anyone who might someday become a problem. She places the drive on my table. 3 years of his private files. Emails, photos, recordings, everything he never wanted found. Why give this to me? Because your sister was collateral damage. I never meant... She stops, composes herself. Just make it count, okay? She turns to leave, but pauses at the door. One more thing. When you use this, and you will, be prepared. Some of what's on there, it's going to hurt people you care about. Are you ready for that? I look around my destroyed studio, at the shredded canvases that represented months of work. Think about the emails threatening my job, my sister's reputation, our future. Yes, I say. And I mean it. Roslyn nods. Good. Because Leo's right about one thing. You're not just fighting him anymore. You're fighting an entire system that protects men like him. And that system. She gestures at my ruined art. It fights back. After she leaves, I stand in the wreckage of my studio holding the USB drive that could change everything. My phone buzzes again. Camilla, probably worried. But before I call her back, I need to decide. How far am I willing to go? And more importantly, who am I willing to take down with me? The contents of the USB drive spill across my laptop screen like toxic waste. Emails, photos, voice recordings, each file more damning than the last. My hands shake as I scroll through Leonardo's carefully catalogued collection of other people's secrets. We can't use this, Camilla says, pacing my living room. These aren't just Leonardo's victims, they're innocent people he's blackmailing. We'd be no better than him. She's right. The drive contains enough dirt to bury Leonardo 10 times over, but using it would mean destroying dozens of other lives. Colleagues who made mistakes, clients who trusted him, even judges who'd been compromised. My phone buzzes. Another email from the school board. Third one today. The words professional conduct review and termination jump out at me. They're suspending me, I tell Camilla, pending investigation into my pattern of disruptive behavior. She stops, pacing. He can't do that. They can't fire you for exposing the truth. Watch me lose my job anyway. I close my laptop, unable to look at any more evidence of Leonardo's corruption. You know what the worst part is? The kids' art show is next week. I promised them I'd be there. Camilla's face hardens. Okay, screw this. We're using the files. What happened to we'd be no better than him? That was before he went after your kids' art show. She grabs my laptop. We just need to be selective. Find something that only hurts him. But as we dig deeper into the files, a pattern emerges. Leonardo hasn't just been collecting dirt, he's been weaving a web. Every piece of information connects to something else, someone else. Using any of it would trigger a cascade of consequences we couldn't control. Wait, Camilla says suddenly. Go back to that email thread. I scroll back to a conversation between Leonardo and someone named Marcus. The subject line reads, Riverside Development Deal. That's the project I've been investigating, Camilla explains, eyes scanning the text. A luxury development that mysteriously got approved despite environmental violations. I could never prove. Her voice trails off as she reads further. Oh my God. What? Leonardo knew. He knew the land was contaminated. He helped cover up soil test results that showed dangerous levels of toxins. She points to an attachment. Look, here's the original report they buried. Can you use this? This isn't just evidence of corruption, it's proof of criminal negligence. People could die if they build on that land. She straightens up. I need to take this to the EPA immediately. Cam, wait. I grab her arm. Think about what happens next. Leonardo will know where this came from. He'll release everything else in retaliation. Let him. Her voice is steel. Some things matter more than reputation. Before she can leave, my phone rings. Unknown number. Hello? Ms. Lucas, a woman's voice, professional but warm. This is Patricia from Channel 7 News. We're doing a story on Leonardo Perkins and the allegations of systematic corruption in his firm. Would you be willing to comment? I meet Camilla's eyes. She nods. Actually, I say, I think you're going to want to hear what my sister has to say. She's an environmental lawyer who's discovered something interesting about the Riverside Development Project. After we hang up, Camilla looks at me. You know what this means, right? Once I go public with this evidence, there's no going back for either of us. I know. The school board. Some things matter more than a job. She hugs me fiercely. I'll protect you this time, I promise. Just go save the world, counselor. I'll handle Leonardo's tantrum. As if summoned by his name, my phone buzzes with a text from Rick. Leo knows about the USB drive. He's on his way to your place. Don't let him in. Too late. A sharp knock echoes through my apartment. Juliet? Leonardo's voice smooth as ever. We need to talk. Camilla clutches the laptop to her chest. I point to my bedroom. There's a fire escape she can use to leave unseen. She shakes her head, but I push her toward it. Go, I whisper. Get that evidence somewhere safe. I'll keep him busy. Another knock, harder this time. I know you're in there, Jules. Don't make this difficult. I wait until I hear Camilla's quiet footsteps on the fire escape before opening the door. Leonardo stands there in his perfect suit, wearing his perfect smile. But his eyes are wild. Where is it? He demands, pushing past me into the apartment. I cross my arms, planting myself between him and my bedroom door. Where's what? Don't play games. The drive. Rosalind's drive. He steps closer, looming over me. Give it to me now, and maybe we can still fix this mess you've made. I smile, channeling every ounce of difficult, defiant energy I possess. You want to talk about messes, Leonardo? Let's talk about Riverside. The colour drains from his face, and I know we've won. Leonardo's composure cracks like thin ice. You have no idea what you're doing, he snarls, advancing on me. That development deal involves people you don't want to cross. I stand my ground, even as my heart hammers. You mean people like you? Men who think they can bury their crimes in paperwork and threats? He lunges for my laptop on the coffee table. I grab it first, clutching it to my chest. Give me the drive, Juliet. His voice drops dangerously low. Last chance. Or what? You'll destroy my career? Too late. Ruin my reputation? Already done. What's left, Leo? His smile turns cruel. Your mother's medical license review is next week, isn't it? Be a shame if the board received evidence of prescription irregularities. The air leaves my lungs. You wouldn't. Try me. He pulls out his phone. One call. That's all it takes to end her career. Your choice. My fingers tighten on the laptop. Mom and I have our issues, but this would destroy her. Everything she's worked for gone in an instant. Leonardo sees my hesitation. Smart girl. Now the door bursts open. Camilla strides in, followed by Rick and two people in FBI windbreakers. Actually, Camilla says, I think they'd like the drive. Leonardo spins around. What is this? This, one agent steps forward, is what happens when you threaten a federal witness. She turns to me. Ms. Lucas, are you all right? I nod, still clutching the laptop. You recorded that? Leonardo's face contorts. You little... Choose your next words carefully, Rick interrupts, holding up his phone. Still streaming. The second agent pulls out handcuffs. Leonardo Perkins, you're under arrest for witness tampering, conspiracy to commit fraud, and environmental violations under the Clean Water Act. You can't prove anything, Leonardo spits. No? Camilla pulls out her phone, plays a video. Leonardo's own voice fills the room, discussing the contaminated soil reports. Funny thing about evidence, it works better when you share it with the right people instead of using it for blackmail. As the agents read him his rights, Leonardo locks eyes with me. You think this is over? Everything on that drive goes public. Everyone gets burned. Already handled, Rick says. While Juliet kept you busy, we've been working with the FBI's cybercrime unit. The evidence of actual crimes will be used in prosecution. The personal information? Sealed by federal order. You planned this, Leonardo whispers. All of you. No. I step closer. We just learned from you. Find the weakness, exploit it, keep people in line. Isn't that how it works? The agents start leading him away, but I'm not done. You know what your weakness was, Leo. You thought everyone was like you, that we'd all choose self-preservation over doing what's right. But some of us. I glance at Camilla, at Rick. Some of us choose differently. After the agents leave with Leonardo, Camilla hugs me so hard it hurts. I'm sorry I left you alone with him. You didn't. I hug her back. You were exactly where you needed to be. Rick clears his throat. There's something else you should see. He holds up his phone, showing a social media feed exploding with support. Comments flood in from Leonardo's other victims, sharing their stories. The hashtag #JockDifficultWomen is trending. Turns out, Rick says, you weren't the only ones he tried to silence. Once people saw you stand up to him, my phone buzzes. An email from the school board. I brace myself, but instead of more threats, it's an apology. They're launching an investigation into Leonardo's interference and want me back for the art show. We did it, I breathe. You did it, Camilla corrects. You stood up first, showed me how to be brave. Showed all of us, Rick adds. I think about the name tag from the wedding, the failure, written in my mother's perfect script. About all the times I was told to be quieter, smaller, less difficult. Should we call Mom? Camilla asks softly. Tell her she's safe. I nod, reaching for my phone, but pause. Hey, Cam, remember when we were kids and you fell from that treehouse? Of course. You never told anyone, but I know why you fell. You were trying to catch me, stop me from jumping to the next tree. She smiles. You always did take the scary jumps. Yeah, well, I squeeze her hand. Thanks for jumping with me this time. Outside, camera flashes start popping as news vans arrive. The next few days will be chaos. Interviews, statements, proceedings. But for now, in my apartment with my sister and our unlikely ally, I feel something I haven't felt in years. Perfectly gloriously at peace with being difficult. Ready to face the cameras? Camilla asks. I straighten my spine. Ready to tell the truth. The elementary school hallway buzzes with excitement as kids and parents filter into the art show. My students' works line the walls, bright splashes of courage and imagination that refuse to be contained by paper borders. Just like their teacher. Miss Jules, Emma tugs my sleeve, pointing to her painting. I did it just like you said. I made the scary parts beautiful. I kneel beside her, studying the swirling darkness she's transformed into stars. You absolutely did. Is it too difficult? She whispers, echoing my mother's favorite word. No, honey. It's exactly difficult enough. The crowd parts, and I spot my mother standing before Emma's painting. She's been quiet since Leonardo's arrest, since learning how close she came to losing everything. But she came tonight. That's something. It's chaotic, she says, tilting her head at the artwork. But purposeful, like someone I know. Before I can respond, Camilla bursts through the door, still in her court clothes. Did I miss it? Please tell me I didn't miss it. Perfect timing, I say, checking my watch. They're announcing the gallery selections in 5 minutes. She hugs me, whispering, Leonardo took the plea deal. Full confession. It's over. Relief floods through me, but there's something else in her voice. And I've been appointed to the state's new Environmental Oversight Committee. They want someone with a proven record of standing up to corporate corruption. I laugh. Look who's being difficult now. Learned from the best. She squeezes my hand. Oh, and Rick's here. He brought someone you should meet. Rick appears with a tall woman in a gallery owner's perfectly curated outfit. Jules, this is Marina. She saw your work online, the pieces Leonardo destroyed. I photograph everything, I explain. Digital backup of all my art after previous experiences. Marina nods. Rick showed me the photos, that series about silence and power. I have space in my gallery's upcoming exhibition on feminist perspectives, if you're interested. My heart stops. Marina's gallery is the kind of space I'd never dared approach, certain I'd be dismissed. My voice catches. The originals were destroyed, so recreate them. Bigger, bolder. Her eyes spark. Sometimes destruction is just renovation in disguise. The principal calls for attention, gathering everyone for the announcement of which student pieces will be displayed at the district art show. As she speaks, I feel a small hand slip into mine. Emma vibrating with nervous energy. What if they don't pick mine? She whispers. Then we'll know they weren't ready for something that brave. My mother appears on Emma's other side, taking her free hand. And brave is better than safe, she says, meeting my eyes. I should have taught you that a long time ago. The principal unfolds her paper. Our first selection, Emma Chen's Night Stars. Emma squeals, launching herself at the painting. My mother follows to help her take it down, but pauses. Juliet, that day, with the name tag. I never meant... I know, Mom. No, let me finish. I called you difficult because I didn't have the courage to be difficult myself. But watching you these past weeks, seeing you stand up not just for yourself but for everyone else. She straightens her spine. I'm proud of you. My difficult, magnificent daughter. Camilla joins us, followed by Rick and Marina. Around us, children excitedly discuss their art, unafraid to take up space, to make noise, to be seen. Ready to see your new gallery space? Marina asks. I look at my family, my sister who jumped with me, my mother learning to embrace the chaos, even Rick who chose truth over safety. At Emma, proudly showing her difficult, beautiful painting to anyone who'll look. Actually, I say, I want to change the series title. Oh? Instead of Silence and Power, I smile, feeling the rightness of it. I want to call it Difficult Women. Perfect, Marina says. And the first piece? I turn to Emma's painting. Darkness transformed into stars, fear turned to beauty, silence broken by truth. This one. I want to recreate this one first. But that's not your art, my mother says, confused. No, I agree. It's better. It's what happens when we teach the next generation that their voice matters. That difficult isn't an insult. It's a superpower. Emma beams up at me, starlight and courage radiating from her small frame. Around us, the art show continues, a symphony of colour and chaos and children unafraid to make noise. And in that moment, I am exactly difficult enough.
My sister Mia and I have only a year between us in age. She's 26 and I'm 27. From childhood, she openly admitted her jealousy and dislike for me, which saddened me deeply as she was my only sibling, whom I both loved and admired. Despite her feelings, I always looked up to her and sought closeness, but she remained distant. When in good spirits, Mia was an incredible sister, fun, creative, and lively. However, during conflicts, she would turn harsh, resorting to physical aggressions like punching, pushing, or hair-pulling, which our parents condemned, especially given she was the older one. Mia's vibrant personality shone through her passions for the arts. Trip. Our academic paths overlapped when I, demonstrating advanced capabilities, was started early in school by our mother, putting us in the same grade but fortunately different classrooms. Mia perceived this as a rivalry, though academically I was merely average, securing mostly Joes and Roes in contrast to the more common Aos and Joes among our peers. Her talents lay elsewhere, in art, drama, bakery, cooking. I, on the other hand, developed a love for the violin and languages, dabbling in Russia and China. Mia was deeply involved in our school's drama department until a significant incident. She was expelled from the drama team after physically attacking a teammate who was involved with her boyfriend, even setting the girl's bag on fire. Although our parents managed to mitigate the consequences, Mia had to repeat 13th grade, leading to strained family relationships and a period of strict discipline. The most tumultuous aspect of my relationship with Mia involved my romantic life. My longest relationship lasted only 7 months, consistently sabotaged by her interference. A memorable relationship with William ended abruptly after 4 months when he blocked me on all communication platforms without explanation. Confronting him revealed Mia had been feeding him fabricated stories about me, casting doubts that eventually led William to end our relationship, unwilling to deal with the drama surrounding my sister. The climax of Mia's destructive tendencies came during my baby shower. In a shocking move, she announced fake paternity test results attempting to disgrace me, only for the situation to take an unexpected turn as her husband served her with divorce papers in front of all the guests. This public debacle underscored the depth of her issues and the impact of her actions on her own life and relationships. Afterward, during a heated confrontation, Mia confessed her deep-seated insecurities and jealousy towards me, acknowledging her deliberate attempts to ruin my relationships out of spite and a misguided sense of competition. This revelation was painful yet illuminating, highlighting the complex dynamics of sibling rivalry and the profound effects of jealousy and insecurity. She concocted those falsehoods to push him away from me, and I was infuriated by her behavior. It became abundantly clear that her actions stemmed from her own unresolved feelings of jealousy. My parents scolded her, highlighting the wrongness of her actions. However, Mia appeared indifferent because she ultimately achieved her aim. William and I ended our relationship. This episode marked a significant turning point in my life, compelling me to contemplate distancing myself from her. It was a harsh realization that for me to foster a healthy and enduring romantic relationship, I needed to keep her at a distance. We both harbored ambitions of studying abroad. Although Mia had great potential, it seemed her fears or inadequate personal research influenced her decision to study computer science locally, adhering to our father's suggestion. Observing this, I resolved not to let my parents dictate my future. I dedicated myself to earning a scholarship to study overseas. Despite my endeavours, financial limitations hindered my initial plans, leading me to start my university education locally in my chosen field. Nevertheless, after a year, my resolve to study abroad remained firm, and I continued to explore opportunities. Eventually, I secured a scholarship and was able to relocate overseas to resume my studies. My departure saddened my parents. On my final night at home, Mia apologised for her past actions towards me since our childhood. Perhaps her apology was motivated by my imminent departure, which would leave her alone with our parents. Desiring to avoid further conflict, I forgave her. My time studying abroad was transformative. I lost weight, made new friends, developed my personal style, and gained confidence. Graduating was a significant achievement, although the following year was challenging as I struggled to find a job. Eventually, I secured a good position and settled down. Meanwhile, back home, Mia completed her bachelor's degree. She expressed a desire to pursue her master's in the country where I was living, so I supported her efforts. Despite her numerous applications for scholarships, she faced repeated rejections, which frustrated her. During a visit, she stayed with me for 10 days. During her stay, I noticed how she made snide remarks about my appearance, but I chose to ignore them. It was peculiar how she attempted to dictate my attire and conduct in public. When I introduced her to my friends, she disapproved of them, suggesting I find better company. There were moments when I enjoyed myself with my friends, only for her mood to inexplicably sour. I took her to my workplace and she was taken aback by the size of my office. I shared my excitement about the opportunities I was encountering, but she quickly turned the conversation towards herself, expressing envy and regret over her past decisions. Later, during dinner, she expressed a desire to extend her stay with me, but given her critical nature, I politely suggested she find other accommodations if she wished to stay longer. This was when Mia lost her composure, yelling about how tired she was of being compared to me and feeling that her own achievements were never acknowledged enough. I calmly explained to Mia that I never sought to belittle her. Rather, it was she who often made me feel inferior. Mia retorted that I wasn't anything exceptional and claimed she could have achieved the same things if given similar opportunities. I pointed out that we both had the same starting points and that my scholarships and academic achievements were the results of my own hard work, not preferential treatment. Her response was harsh. She called me a spoiled brat and wished I had never been born. Her words were so hurtful that I left the table and locked myself in my room. 5 days later, Mia returned home without offering an apology, and I felt a profound sense of relief in her absence. Over the years, it had become clear how much we had both changed, and I found myself increasingly uncomfortable in her presence. During this time, I met Michael, who worked in the same industry as me. We connected over mutual interests and friends, and what I thought would be a simple friendship quickly turned into more when he asked me out. After 3 years together, Michael proposed, and I joyfully accepted. We became close with each other's families despite the distance, bonding over video calls and plans for our future together. An exciting job opportunity then arose, offering double my current salary but requiring a move back to my home country. Michael and I discussed it thoroughly and agreed it was too good to pass up, so I accepted the position. Moving back, my parents warmly welcomed Michael, quickly integrating him into the family, including golf Sundays with my dad. Meanwhile, Mia kept her distance. She avoided meeting me or Michael, concocting excuses whenever our parents tried to arrange gatherings. Given our strained history, I understood her reluctance and was honestly relieved, fearing she might attempt to undermine this relationship as she had with previous ones. Michael and I planned a small and intimate wedding in my parents' spacious backyard, wanting only close family and friends to join us. It was a beautiful ceremony filled with heartfelt speeches and abundant love, although Mia was noticeably absent, allegedly due to illness. Following a joyful celebration and a brief honeymoon, we returned, and I was sharing our wedding photos with my mum when Mia unexpectedly visited. As I reminisced about the happiness our grandparents expressed at the wedding, Mia interrupted, insinuating financial troubles on our part. I laughed off her suggestion, sharing the good news about my substantial new job and Michael's success. She sarcastically questioned the modesty of our wedding venue, to which my mum quickly defended the decision, emphasizing the personal significance and our preference for simplicity despite our means. I reassured Mia that Michael and I valued modest living and wise financial stewardship over extravagance. Frustrated by our contentment, Mia accused me of showing off and lying about our financial well-being. I calmly responded that there was no need to boast, especially not to her, emphasizing that our choices were based on our values, not our bank accounts. I pointed out to Mia that we weren't children anymore and that she needed to mature and stop making up stories about me. I expressed that it was for these reasons I was relieved she hadn't attended my wedding. This upset her greatly, and she left in tears. Although my mother tried to calm things down, Mia wouldn't hear it. Later, she spread her version of our argument to my grandparents and some cousins. I reached out with a text to apologize, but she didn't respond. Over the years, I've mostly kept my distance, though there have been some brighter moments. When Michael met Mia, he instantly felt uneasy around her, largely because she often mocked him. For instance, she teased us for liking Disney movies, which she considered dull, and insinuated that Michael was less of a man for enjoying them. I was deeply offended by her comments, but she eventually apologized to both me and Michael. Mia has also repeatedly hinted to my mother that she believes Michael is too controlling over my life. When confronted, Mia admitted that she simply had a bad feeling about him. One day, while having lunch at my place, Mia complained about her boyfriend John, who had moved in with her but lost his job 4 months later and hadn't contributed to the household since. I suggested she might need to reconsider their living arrangement if he wasn't contributing. Mia retorted by pointing out that I earned more than Michael and questioned if I should also kick him out. I clarified that while it was true I earned more, Michael was still financially contributing significantly to our household, unlike John. My mother supported this, noting how Michael had even sacrificed his career prospects so I could pursue my high-paying job. Mia reacted negatively, suggesting that it was inappropriate for a man to earn less in a relationship. I countered that not every man has the fragile ego of those she's dated. Michael supports me for who I am, not what I earn. Unfortunately, Mia didn't take this well and later married John, despite his ongoing unemployment and temper issues. Their wedding was marred by an incident where a drunken John caused a scene, which was both embarrassing and alarming. Over time, Mia and John's relationship appeared increasingly volatile, often resulting in John kicking her out during arguments, forcing her to stay at our parents' home. My parents are worried about her, but Mia remains closed off from discussing her issues with them. We later learned from John's mother that Mia had allegedly been unfaithful with a co-worker, which only added to their strained relationship. Despite my concerns, I've learned to stay out of her personal matters, knowing she's unlikely to heed my advice. During a particularly tumultuous period in Mia and John's marriage, they had a massive fight, but ultimately decided to work through their issues by starting couples counseling. Around this time, I discovered I was pregnant. Michael and I were ecstatic, and my parents were thrilled about the prospect of becoming grandparents. They reassured me of their unwavering support throughout my pregnancy. When Mia found out about my pregnancy, she inquired about the baby names Michael and I were considering and offered her help in choosing one. Knowing her tendency to be overly critical, I declined to discuss any names with her, explaining that we intended to keep our choices private until the baby's birth. Mia objected, insisting it was a bad idea, and suggesting we should consult with other family members to select the best name for our baby. I firmly told her we preferred not to have outside opinions on this matter, as we wanted to make the decision ourselves. For the baby shower, I entrusted the planning to my mother, who I knew would respect my wishes. I specifically requested no gifts since we hadn't revealed the baby's gender, and wanted the event to focus on celebrating with close friends and gaining some motherhood insights. On the day of the shower, everything was perfect. Just close friends and thoughtful, non-alcoholic beverages. That was until Mia arrived wearing a godmother-to-be shirt, surprising everyone, myself included, since I had no intention of making her the godmother. Her assumption created an awkward situation as she went around expressing her excitement about a role she had never been offered. Later that day, as we gathered to reveal the baby's gender, the atmosphere was full of joy. Michael and I cut the cake together and were overjoyed to learn we were having a boy. My friends surrounded us with hugs and congratulations. However, Mia interrupted this happy moment by standing up to make an important announcement. She dramatically held up a document, claiming it was a paternity test showing Michael was not the father of our baby. The room fell silent, and Michael, disturbed and confused, turned to me for answers. I was in shock, but before I could respond, my mother intervened. She demanded Mia explain her outrageous claim. Grabbing the document, my mother immediately pointed out the mother's name wasn't even mine. Mia then burst out laughing, admitting she had downloaded a fake paternity test to make a point. She claimed she wanted to expose Michael as abusive, which was absurd since Michael had always been kind and respectful to me. Mia tried to justify her actions by suggesting Michael must be secretly controlling because he was content with me earning more than him. She cited fabricated instances of his supposed anger, but her arguments were baseless and did nothing but reveal her own prejudices and insecurities. As the room reacted with shock and disbelief, I confronted Mia, questioning her sanity and motives. Her actions were not only hurtful, but also dangerous, potentially damaging the trust and peace within our family. This incident further strained our already fragile relationship, and it became clear that Mia's personal issues were deep-seated, affecting not just her own life, but also those around her in profoundly negative ways. At the baby shower, the atmosphere suddenly tensed when I confronted Mia about her outrageous claim that my child wasn't Michael's. I couldn't hold back my frustration anymore and raised my voice to express how humiliated I felt. I made it clear to everyone that my husband had never mistreated me, contrary to what Mia had suggested, and accused her of projecting her insecurities onto me. Mia's face turned a deep shade of red as I continued, openly calling her out for her lifelong jealousy and the disgraceful way she chose to disrupt my baby shower. I recounted instances when she had spread lies about me to my past boyfriends, exposing her pattern of behaviour to our family and friends. While Mia stood there, visibly embarrassed, my mother rebuked her for crossing the line this time. In the midst of the tense silence, John, Mia's usually quiet husband, stood up and approached her. To everyone's shock, he handed her a set of papers. The room's discomfort escalated to chaos as people began whispering and questioning what was happening. John then announced that their marriage counselling wasn't working, acknowledging their toxic relationship and revealing his decision to divorce her. He expressed that he couldn't stand to go home with her after another public spectacle, and he walked out of the baby shower, leaving a stunned Mia holding the divorce papers. The celebratory atmosphere had shifted dramatically, now filled with a somber tension. The joyous event had taken a turn for the worse, and as the reality of the situation sank in, I decided I had enough. I asked Michael to take me away from the gathering. He readily agreed, and I said my goodbyes, with my mother promising to check in on me later. Mia tried to approach and apologise, but I couldn't even bring myself to look at her. Since the incident, my mind has been spinning. Many guests were shocked, and I've received numerous calls from people expressing their concern. Some informed me that after I left, Mia had broken down in tears and my parents had asked her to leave, unwilling to hear her excuses. I feel pity for Mia, seeing her lose not only her husband, but also the support of me and my parents. Yet, I can't help but feel guilty for shouting at her, even though it felt justified at the moment due to her fabricated paternity test. Was it wrong to expose her jealousy so publicly after her deceptive attempt? Since sharing my story, the outpouring of empathy, advice, and shared experiences from the online community has been truly overwhelming. I am deeply touched by the support and sense of community provided through these interactions. I had never shared anything on Reddit before, but the recent upheaval with my sister compelled me to seek an external viewpoint. The truth is, her actions were not only strange, but also deeply hurtful, prompting many of you to suggest professional help for her. I've also realised the need to discuss this with my parents and to distance myself from her permanently. Her behaviour is not something I can tolerate around my child. After discussing the situation with my parents, we all agreed that cutting ties with my sister Mia was the necessary course of action. Mia, showing no remorse, has been spreading stories, claiming I overreacted to her prank at the baby shower and embarrassed her in front of her husband, which she believes led to their divorce. John, her ex-husband, has since spoken to my parents, apologising for past misunderstandings and clarifying that he wasn't abusing Mia. Instead, it was Mia who would become violent during their arguments, posing a physical threat to him. This was a shocking revelation, as we had always assumed John was the aggressor. He even shared evidence of injuries she inflicted, like a broken nose and a black eye. John's restraint in not involving the police likely spared Mia severe legal consequences. Given their toxic relationship, their divorce seems like a positive development. My parents have firmly told Mia she's no longer welcome at our homes. Despite her tears, my mum, still furious about the baby shower incident, warned her against coming near me or my child, threatening a restraining order if necessary. We've urged Mia to seek psychiatric help, but she refuses, accusing our parents of favouring me unfairly. For our safety, Michael and I have cut off all contact with her and installed security cameras at our home to ensure she doesn't approach us. I've recently given birth to a baby boy. The pregnancy was challenging, but it's a joy to finally meet our son. Our home is now filled with his laughter and cries, and Michael and I are embracing our new roles as parents. Despite the sleepless nights, we're loving every moment with him. My parents have been incredibly supportive, helping us daily as we navigate parenthood. Michael's parents are planning to visit next month. Mia has kept her distance throughout this period. The last I heard, she divorced John and moved to another city, possibly seeking a fresh start. While it saddens me that she can't be part of our celebration, my priority is to protect our son. Her absence, though painful, is necessary for the well-being of our family. Something to criticise. At my anniversary party, which was meant to be a celebration of my marriage with William, Ellie decided to announce her pregnancy. It was clearly her way of shifting the focus onto herself, and while I tried to be supportive, it felt like yet another instance where she tried to overshadow my significant life moments. The very next day, things took an unexpected turn when Ellie accused me of poisoning her food during the party. This was not only shocking, but deeply upsetting. After some investigation, it turned out that the real culprit was her boyfriend John, although the exact reasons behind his actions remained unclear. This revelation added another layer of complexity to our already strained relationship. Navigating our family dynamics has always been challenging. My father remarried Matthew when I was 18, introducing Ellie and later our half-brother Mark into the mix. While Mark is a wonderful brother, the tension between Ellie and me has been a constant presence. Despite my efforts to foster a better relationship, Ellie's envy and resentment towards me have only deepened over time. Ellie has often felt sidelined in our family, especially by our dad, who admittedly has shown me more affection and support. This favoritism has been a source of contention, fueling Ellie's feelings of injustice and neglect. Matthew, ever the protective mother, has consistently sided with Ellie, exacerbating family disputes. My dad, preferring to avoid conflict, has mostly remained neutral, which sometimes feels like indifference. Throughout the years, I have built a successful career as a business owner, which unfortunately has only widened the gap between Ellie and me. She works as a marketing manager and frequently voices her frustrations about perceived inequalities in opportunities and achievements within our family. Despite these challenges, I have always aimed to be supportive and inclusive, but Ellie's persistent negativity and attempts to undermine me have made it incredibly difficult to maintain a harmonious relationship. In trying to manage these complex family relationships, I've learned that some rifts are harder to heal than others. While I remain hopeful that things can improve, recent events like the false accusation and the continual lack of acknowledgement for my efforts have made me reconsider the dynamics of our interactions. It's clear that achieving a genuine and supportive sibling relationship with Ellie may require more than just patience and understanding. It's incredibly draining and disheartening when someone turns a challenging situation into something even more negative. My experience with infertility has been one of the most excruciating parts of my life. 5 years ago, my husband William and I decided we were ready to start our family, filled with excitement and hope. However, things didn't go as planned. After a year of unsuccessful attempts, we consulted a fertility specialist who diagnosed me with a condition that severely impairs my ability to conceive naturally. Despite numerous treatments, medications, and even undergoing IVF, our efforts were in vain. Each failure felt like a deep blow, emotionally battering both of us. We had always envisioned a large family, and the repeated disappointments strained our relationship, often pushing us to the brink of despair. The emotional weight was sometimes overwhelming, casting shadows of hopelessness over me. Our family was initially supportive. My father tried to offer support in his way, though he's never been adept with emotional matters. Matthew was proactive, always ready to help with whatever we needed. Even my cousin Ellie appeared sympathetic initially. However, her empathy was short-lived. It wasn't long before she began making subtle, hurtful remarks. Once, she offhandedly commented on how fortunate I was to focus on my career without the burden of children, a remark that stung deeply, especially knowing my deep desire to be a mother. It seemed as though she relished in my pain, which was deeply wounding. Ellie would often speak of her own future plans to have children, almost as if taunting me with her ease of conceiving when she decides it's time, while knowing full well my struggles. It felt both cruel and intentional. Ellie has always sought attention, sometimes through exaggeration or outright deceit. She's had a history of minor fabrications, like feigning illness to skip obligations only to recover miraculously when convenient. Recently, she started dating John, who seemed like a stable presence that could potentially influence her positively. However, I've noticed she might be pushing their relationship too quickly towards marriage and children, which is concerning given her past tendencies to seek validation through competition, often with me. Her behavior has continued to be a source of tension. She often complains about her job and how she's treated unfairly, which makes it hard to sympathize, given her penchant for playing the victim. I worry for John, hoping he sees the signs before it's too late, though it's not my place to intervene. Our struggles and Ellie's behavior culminated last weekend during our 5th wedding anniversary, which also served to announce the expansion of my business. We hosted a large dinner party, inviting family and friends, despite my reservations about including Ellie. I hoped it might be a chance for reconciliation, or at least a peaceful evening. Thankfully, the night proceeded smoothly until the very end, which allowed us to focus on celebrating our milestones amidst the challenges we've faced. During our celebration for our business expansion, Ellie unexpectedly stood up, apparently poised to make a toast. Instead, she announced she was pregnant, 5 months along. The room fell silent, and her boyfriend John looked completely taken aback, as if he was hearing the news for the first time. The The whirlwind of emotions I felt was indescribable. Shock, hurt, and anger, all at once. Here I was, having yearned to share such news myself after our lengthy struggles with infertility, and Ellie chose this moment to overshadow our announcement. Despite the intense emotions boiling inside me, I managed to maintain my composure. I congratulated her, masking my true feelings, while William offered a reassuring squeeze to my hand under the table, sharing in my upset. We had intended this evening to be a celebration of our hard work and successes, not Ellie's pregnancy reveal. After the initial shock, I excused myself and retreated to the bathroom to collect my thoughts and stem the tears. It was our special night, and she had turned it upside down. Ellie's actions seemed especially thoughtless, knowing the emotional journey William and I had been through. Yet, this was typical of her, always needing to be the centre of attention, regardless of the consequences. The next morning, while William and I were trying to focus on the positives from the evening, Ellie appeared at our doorstep, visibly upset. Without invitation, she stormed into our living room, accusing me of deliberately making her sick at the party. She was convinced that I had spiked the food out of jealousy, demanding to see our CCTV footage to prove her suspicions. Her allegations were absurd. We had the food professionally catered, and tampering with it was out of the question. As the confrontation escalated, Ellie threatened to involve the police and press charges. William attempted to defuse the situation by suggesting her symptoms might be just morning sickness, but she was adamant that foul play was involved. Feeling cornered, I agreed to show her the CCTV footage, hoping it would calm her down and prove my innocence. We watched the footage together, which clearly showed a normal evening with guests enjoying themselves. No evidence of any tampering. Yet, Ellie remained unconvinced, nitpicking details and insisting on her narrative. Her refusal to see reason was frustrating, and her threats to escalate the matter legally were alarming. I felt trapped in a twisted nightmare, unsure of how to prove further that I was not at fault. Ellie's determination to portray me as the villain was unwarranted and hurtful. Now, I find myself pondering the best course of action. Should I continue trying to reason with her, or should I prepare for the possibility of legal action? I'm left feeling confused, hurt, and unsure of how to navigate this tumultuous situation. I never expected to uncover anything significant, but I was determined to clear my name and move past this whole ordeal. While reviewing the CCTV footage from our party, something startling caught my eye. There was a moment when John, Ellie's boyfriend, was standing by the drinks table. It was subtle, but I noticed him slipping something into Ellie's glass when she wasn't looking. I replayed the footage multiple times to confirm what I saw. It was undeniable that John had tampered with her drink. Shocked and confused about his motives, I knew I had to confront him directly. I called John and asked him to meet me. He sounded apprehensive but agreed to come over. Upon his arrival, I wasted no time showing him the footage and demanding an explanation. Initially, he tried to deny his actions, but the undeniable evidence from the footage left him with no escape. He eventually confessed that he had spiked Ellie's drink with Plan B. He explained that Ellie had been pressuring him for a baby, falsely claiming she was on birth control, which led him to panic and act impulsively to prevent a potential pregnancy without confronting her. The revelation left me speechless. I was furious and disgusted by his actions, but I knew that Ellie deserved to know the truth, despite how devastating it would be for her. I called Ellie and asked her to come over, still under the impression she would confront me further about the alleged food tampering. However, when she arrived and learned about what John had done, her initial reaction was sheer shock, followed by vehement denial, suggesting I could have doctored the video. But as we watched the footage together, the undeniable truth set in, and her shock turned to fury. She erupted, verbally attacking John and throwing objects around in a rage. In the heat of her meltdown, Ellie shockingly admitted that she had fabricated her pregnancy to manipulate John into staying with her, fearing he was close to leaving. She believed that faking a pregnancy would force him to commit fully to her. I was utterly astounded by her confession. It was all a calculated lie, a desperate attempt to secure her relationship. but now it had spectacularly backfired. Even after her confession, Ellie turned her anger towards me, accusing me of ruining everything by revealing the truth. She claimed that if I had just kept quiet, she could have maintained her lie and everything would have been fine. I was appalled by her attempt to twist the situation, making me out to be the antagonist after all her deceit. The situation escalated further when my father and Matthew arrived, having been alerted by Ellie's frantic call en route to my house. They walked into a scene of complete chaos, with Ellie still lashing out at John. Matthew immediately sided with Ellie, accusing me of orchestrating the drama out of jealousy, refusing to see the facts even as I tried to explain. My father, after reviewing the footage and hearing John's admission, was deeply disappointed in Ellie's actions. He confronted her about her dishonesty and manipulation, marking a rare moment where he sided with me over Ellie, prompting a fierce argument between him and Matthew. The family dispute left me emotionally drained. What started as a celebration of our business achievements and anniversary had spiraled into a nightmarish family drama. Now, with the family divided and the potential impact on my business reputation looming over me due to the spreading rumours, I find myself lost on how to navigate this tumultuous situation. Any advice on handling these complex family dynamics and protecting my personal and professional life would be greatly appreciated. It's understandable that no one wants to be associated with a scandal, especially one involving serious accusations like drink tampering and faking a pregnancy. I reassured my concerned friends and business associates that everything was under control, but inside, I was really worried. The last thing I needed was for this drama to affect my professional life. As for Ellie, her reputation has suffered significantly. People who were at the party, especially those who witnessed her announcement, are now questioning everything about her. Some mutual friends have distanced themselves, and she's been unusually quiet on social media, a platform she typically loves for the attention. It seems like she's retreated from the public eye. Family dynamics have become even more complicated. John ended his relationship with Ellie soon after the truth came out. He was understandably upset about being manipulated into a corner. Ellie, of course, blames me for their breakup, saying that if I hadn't revealed the truth, they would still be together. It's typical of Ellie to deflect blame instead of taking responsibility. My father is deeply troubled by the whole situation. He's always had a soft spot for Ellie despite her antics, but now he's considering distancing himself from her, which I never thought I'd hear. This has put a strain on his relationship with Matthew, who continues to defend Ellie vehemently. Things between them are incredibly tense, and I worry this might lead to more serious issues in their marriage. With all that's happened, I've even thought about taking legal action against John for what he did. I've consulted with a lawyer, who confirmed I have a case if I choose to press charges, but also warned it could get messy, with potential countersuits for defamation, since the incident has become public knowledge. At the same time, Ellie has been threatening to sue me for emotional distress, claiming that by showing the CCTV footage and exposing her lies, I've caused her severe emotional trauma. My lawyer has advised me to take these threats seriously, and we're exploring options for a countersuit, but the idea of going to court is daunting. Matthew is fully on Ellie's side, even pushing my dad to take legal action against me, which is just insane. Thankfully, my dad isn't entertaining that idea, but the ongoing tension is driving a wedge between him and Matthew. He's been staying at our place more often to avoid the stress at home. In an attempt to salvage our family relationships, my dad suggested family therapy. He's desperate to mend things with Matthew, and is still holding out hope that we can somehow repair our relationship with Ellie. I wasn't keen on the idea, but agreed because it meant so much to him. Matthew reluctantly agreed, but Ellie flat out refused at first. Eventually, she agreed to one session just to hear everyone out. The therapy session was a disaster. Ellie was hostile from the start, playing the victim and accusing me of ruining her life. She insisted that if I hadn't interfered, she and John would be happily planning their future. Matthew defended Ellie throughout, even suggesting I should have kept quiet about the CCTV footage to avoid embarrassing Ellie. My dad tried to remain neutral, but lost his patience and told Ellie she needed to take responsibility for her actions. This caused a major argument between him and Matthew. After the session ended in chaos, my dad looked defeated and apologized, wondering if it was time to accept that things might not get better. It was heartbreaking to see him so downcast. Since the disastrous therapy session, things have only gotten worse for Ellie. I heard she lost her job due to erratic behavior and has started spreading rumors about me online, accusing me of sabotaging her life and manipulating footage to make John look bad. While most people who know the full story aren't buying it, a few seem to believe her, which is hurtful. My dad is beside himself with worry and has tried reaching out to Ellie, but she's not responsive. Matthew is furious with him for not supporting Ellie more and blames him for pushing her away. Their marriage is hanging by a thread, and I fear it might not survive this turmoil. I've considered cutting ties with Ellie, but it's complicated because she's still family. Despite everything, part of me still cares about her. I've started exploring legal options to protect myself from the slander she's spreading. My lawyer advises sending a cease and desist letter, but I hesitate to escalate things further, even though I can't let her continue spreading lies about me. After everything we've been through, the prospect of sharing our pregnancy news was filled with a mix of emotions. William and I were cautious about who we told initially. My dad was absolutely overjoyed when we broke the news to him, and his support was unwavering. Matthew's reaction, however, was more reserved. Although she seemed happy for us, there was a noticeable distance, possibly due to the lingering strain from the situation with Ellie. Amidst these complexities, William and I focused on the positive developments. We began preparing the nursery and dreaming about our future with our new baby. This was a significant and joyous milestone, particularly after our long journey with infertility. Although the fear of potential problems hadn't entirely vanished, we maintained our optimism. When it was time to share our news with the wider family circle, we opted for a small and intimate gathering. We invited only our closest family members and friends, my dad, Matthew, Mark, and a few others. However, we made a conscious decision not to invite Ellie. Given the past drama, we felt it was safer and less stressful to exclude her from this event. The gathering was filled with nerves but also excitement. After dinner, William and I stood up to announce our pregnancy. The response was overwhelmingly positive. My dad leapt up to embrace us, visibly thrilled, and Mark was excited about becoming an uncle. Even Matthew managed to smile and offered her congratulations, though her happiness seemed tempered by recent events. A moment of awkwardness arose when Matthew inquired if we had informed Ellie. The tension in the room was palpable as everyone awaited our response. I explained that we hadn't yet told Ellie, given the complexities of our recent interactions. My dad showed understanding, while Matthew appeared conflicted, perhaps wanting to suggest that Ellie should have been included, but holding back, sensing the timing wasn't right. Despite this brief discomfort, we ended the evening on a high note, with everyone toasting to the new addition to our family. It felt like a turning point, a step towards healing and moving past the turmoil. However, as news tends to spread quickly within families, it wasn't long before I received messages from various relatives congratulating us. The positive outpouring was wonderful, yet I knew it was only a matter of time before Ellie would hear about it. True to my suspicions, Ellie found out through mutual friends. My dad called to warn me that she was upset about not being told directly and might confront us. That evening, just as we were settling down, Ellie appeared at our doorstep, visibly furious. Ellie wasted no time expressing her anger. She accused us of deliberately excluding her and attempting to erase her from the family. Her accusations were harsh, claiming that we were flaunting our happiness in her face, especially after her fallout with John. I tried to explain our reasons for keeping things private and our plans to inform her in our own time, but she was unyielding, interpreting our actions as a personal attack. The conversation escalated quickly. Ellie insisted on being involved in the baby's life as its aunt. William and I had already agreed that while we wouldn't cut her off entirely, we needed to establish firm boundaries to maintain our peace. This only intensified her anger. Ellie threatened to disrupt our lives if we excluded her, prompting William to intervene and ask her to leave, warning that we would consider legal measures if her threats continued. After she stormed out, William and I were left disheartened and knew we had to make some difficult decisions. We informed my dad of the incident, and while he was saddened, he supported our decision to set boundaries. Matthew, however, reacted differently. She urged us to reconsider, arguing that Ellie was just struggling and that isolating her could worsen her situation. I tried to explain that we were not severing ties completely, just prioritizing our family's well-being, but Matthew seemed unable to grasp the extent of Ellie's toxic behavior. Ultimately, William and I decided to proceed with our plan to minimize contact with Ellie, involving her in our lives only when absolutely necessary. We also enhanced our home security as a precaution. This situation has been incredibly challenging, but we remain committed to our family's happiness and well-being, navigating these complex dynamics as best we can. It's not the scenario I envisioned, but prioritizing the safety and well-being of my growing family has become essential. Meanwhile, the relationship between my dad and Matthew has grown increasingly strained. My dad has been spending more time away from home, either staying with friends or visiting us. Matthew is trying her best to keep everything together, but the stress is visibly wearing on her. I'm not sure what the future holds for them, but I hope they can find a way to work through their issues without it leading to a complete breakdown. For now, my focus is on my pregnancy and preparing for the arrival of our baby. I'm striving to stay positive and keep the family drama at bay, but it's challenging when it feels like everything is hanging by a thread. I just want to enjoy this special time without constantly worrying about the next family crisis. William and I welcomed our beautiful baby girl Mia a few months ago. She's absolutely perfect. The birth went smoothly, and both Mia and I came through it healthily, which was a huge relief after all the stress during my pregnancy. William has been an incredible father, fully involved in everything from changing diapers to managing late-night feedings. This experience has strengthened our bond even more, and I'm so grateful to have him by my side. As for the rest of the family, things are still complicated, but manageable. My dad has embraced his role as a doting grandpa and visits almost every day to spend time with Mia, especially given the ongoing issues with Ellie and Matthew. Matthew, to her credit, has made efforts to be more involved. Although there's still some tension between us, she's trying to be a good grandmother, and I'm meeting her halfway for the sake of peace. Now, about Ellie. After our confrontation a year ago, we maintained our distance as planned. Initially, Ellie didn't handle it well. She continued to lash out online and made several unannounced visits. However, a few months ago, Matthew convinced Ellie to start therapy, and to everyone's surprise, she agreed. I didn't have high expectations, but it seems therapy is genuinely helping. My dad says Ellie has been attending sessions regularly and is even beginning to recognize some of her past behaviors. A few weeks ago, Ellie reached out with an apology. It was a simple message, but it seemed heartfelt. She acknowledged her actions were driven by hurt and jealousy and mentioned she's working on bettering herself. She didn't ask for forgiveness, only expressed a hope that we could rebuild our relationship over time. I responded cautiously, appreciating her efforts and stating that any future relationship would have to rebuild slowly and on my terms. So far, she has respected that, which is more than I had anticipated. Ellie also landed a new job and appears to be improving overall. She's not entirely back to her old self, but she's showing signs of maturity I never expected to see. I remain cautiously optimistic, but still vigilant. Trust won't be rebuilt overnight, and I'm not ready to fully reintegrate her into my life, but I'm hopeful this could be a positive beginning. Thank you all for the support and advice over the past year. It's been an unbelievable journey, and I'm thankful to have had a place to share it. I'll keep updating if anything significant happens, but for now, I'm looking forward to enjoying life with my little family and seeing what the future holds. When I was 18, my life took a harsh turn. My parents and twin sister decided there wasn't enough room for me at home, effectively forcing me out. I spent the next several years grappling with instability, moving from makeshift living situations including a tent, to getting by however I could. Despite these struggles, I managed to build a stable life and eventually bought my own house. Now, at 26, just as I've established myself, my family, led by my sister who's expecting her fourth child, suddenly reappeared. They arrived unannounced at my doorstep, looking to move in. This is the same sister who had once advocated for my ouster, claiming our home was too small for both of us. Growing up, I constantly felt sidelined in favour of my sister. Our parents made no secret of their preference for a daughter. They even admitted they would have chosen not to have me if my sister hadn't been conceived. Throughout our childhood, she was the centre of attention. Her needs always came first, from toys to clothes, while I received the bare minimum to keep up appearances. My sister has always exhibited narcissistic traits, likely a product of our parents' biased upbringing. She's been a continual source of distress for me, undermining me at every opportunity instead of providing the sibling support one might expect. This toxic family dynamic was somewhat mitigated by our grandfather, the only family member who saw through the unfair treatment. His passing when I was 15 removed the last bit of kindness I experienced at home. As teenagers, when my sister became pregnant, our parents married her off to her boyfriend and brought him into our already cramped home, leaving me without even a couch to sleep on. My father used the living room couch occasionally, so that wasn't an option either. With no alternatives and explicit instructions not to reach out to relatives, as that would expose our family's dysfunction, I was pushed out entirely. I ended up in a tent in our backyard, a solution that came about after the police mistakenly brought me back home following a brief stint of homelessness. This setup was a so-called reward for keeping quiet about my actual living conditions. Years of hardship and determination led me to a better place, both physically and emotionally. Now, as my family attempts to encroach on the life I've painstakingly built, I find myself at a crossroads, contemplating how to handle their unexpected and unwelcome return. They offered me a place to live in their backyard, on the condition that I clean it up first. I agreed, despite the area being in disarray, scattered with flour, sugar, and infested with rodents thriving on the mess. At one of the lowest points in my life, I saw this as an opportunity and quickly moved in, even though my sister seemed relieved to see me go, remarking on the lack of space for me at her place. No one cared to ask where I was heading. Cleaning and transforming the space into a livable area wasn't easy at first, especially dealing with the rodents that sought out the scattered food. However, I eventually settled in comfortably. My circumstances forced me to drop out of high school just a few months shy of my final exams. My friends advised me to stay in my parents' backyard and finish school, but I had already given up on that path. Instead, I focused on my job, relying solely on my earnings. Before long, I realized the need to enhance my skills for a better future. Growing up, my father was a service technician, and I often played with his tools instead of toys, helping him with various household repairs. This early experience came in handy when I decided to invest in further education and secured a job at a car manufacturing plant. I worked diligently, climbing the professional ladder until I became a design manager. Recently, an old friend in the midst of a divorce needed to sell his house quickly. Despite my initial reluctance, the substantial discount and flexible payment plan he offered were too good to pass up. I bought the 4-bedroom house and moved in 3 weeks ago. To my surprise, my estranged family showed up unannounced at my new home. Considering I had no contact with them for years and lived 17 miles away, their visit was unexpected. I suspect a neighbour, still connected on social media, might have informed them. Upon their forceful entry, my parents expressed pride in my accomplishments, but it was surreal for them to see me as a homeowner at 36 while they still rented. My sister and her husband wandered around as if they were assessing the place to move in. When confronted, they vaguely mentioned they were just checking on me. Ironically, they seemed interested in my life now when I needed them least. During their visit, my sister audaciously claimed a bedroom for herself, enthused by the private bathroom, as if it was settled that they would move in. My parents tried to reason with her to manage her children better amidst this chaos. I was flabbergasted and firmly refused any discussions about them moving in. The conversation escalated quickly, with them trying to impose a moral obligation on me to house my sister due to familial duty. In a heated moment, I stood my ground, emphasizing that my parents had the responsibility to provide for their children, not me. I demanded they leave my home, asserting my independence and refuting any guilt they attempted to place on me for their lack of planning and space. As they left, I realized the peace of living alone in my own space, free from the burden of uninvited and unwelcome expectations. Back then, my grandfather was fine with my cousin sleeping on the couch, but when I asked for a similar favor, he denied it and kicked me out. I vented about how I had struggled, living with rodents in my employer's garage, and then in a cramped apartment for 10 years, but my family never once checked on me. As I recounted my hardships, my mother began to cry and tried to hug me, but I stopped her and insisted they leave. John told me to toughen up, reminding me of his own hard times, suggesting I had plenty of space in my big house since I was single. I sharply told him to be quiet. My sister cursed at me for raising my voice at her husband, but I stood firm and told them to leave, or it would escalate. I ushered them out, refusing to let them argue back. My anger was palpable. They had always been toxic and self-centered, and now their greed was showing. I was no longer the compliant teenager they once manipulated. If they pushed further, I was ready to involve the police. To clarify, no, my sister never offered to pay rent. She and her husband have been sponging off my parents for over a decade, and now they seemed intent on leeching off me. Despite the strain it clearly put on my parents, they never took steps to push her out. Instead, they tried to unload her onto me. A week after our initial confrontation, my mother visited again. This time she was direct, arguing that my home had enough room to house my sister and her family. She repeated her reasoning about the crowded conditions at her place, but I remained resolute with my refusal. When subtle persuasion didn't work, she resorted to thinly veiled threats, suggesting that my large, often empty house was a security risk and that having family around would be safer and help with chores. I dismissed her fears and her manipulations, telling her firmly to leave and not return. Just days after our argument, a neighbor alerted me to suspicious activity around my house. He described seeing a pregnant woman, a man, and a young boy peering into windows and lingering in the backyard, likely trying to break in. Grateful for his vigilance, I gave him my contact information and asked him to keep me informed. My plans to install security cameras had been urgent, but not soon enough, as just 5 days later, the same neighbor called to tell me he thought someone had broken into my home. Rushing back, I discovered he was right. My sister and John had entered through a rear window. Confronted, my sister justified their break-in by claiming they had no other choice, accusing me of being unreasonable. As I processed her audacity, John smugly remarked on how easy it had been. I lost my temper and confronted him physically. My sister tried to intervene, and during the scuffle, their teenage son hit me with a bottle, causing my head to bleed. The situation escalated quickly into chaos, and my sister called our parents, painting a picture of me as the aggressor. When the police arrived, they began to clear up the mess while my sister and John frantically apologized, pleading not to have their son arrested. Despite their pleas, I was ready to pursue charges for everyone involved. My sister, however, denied the break-in and assault, claiming it was merely a family visit gone wrong, and that her son's actions were just a prank. As my parents arrived, they pressured me to drop the charges, uniting to defend my sister and label me as vindictive. Faced with their collective denial and manipulation, I was determined not to let them rewrite the narrative of what had occurred in my own home. Last week, my neighbor stepped forward to provide a crucial statement, which ultimately led to the arrest of those involved in my assault. They spent the night in jail because my parents couldn't afford bail. The following morning, they faced trial while I was at the hospital treating my injuries and ensuring there were no internal damages. I took a few days off to recover and press charges for assault, also seeking compensation for my legal fees, which the court granted. Despite my parents' efforts to persuade me to drop the charges, I stood firm, even threatening legal action against them for their involvement in orchestrating the attack. Given that their son is a minor, he was treated under juvenile law, resulting in a week's stay in a juvenile facility, with his parents liable for restitution, lost wages, and my medical expenses. My sister and her husband were fined heavily. In an attempt to lessen their financial burden, they requested to substitute part of their fine with community service. It's been quiet since the incident. I hope they've learned their lesson and will maintain their distance. However, my parents haven't let this go. Just yesterday, they showed up at my doorstep. After persistently waiting outside for an hour, I reluctantly let them in. They pleaded for my help, but when it became clear they were asking on behalf of my sister, I refused to be involved. They then revealed their real motive. They're aging, their home is deteriorating, and they wanted to move in with me, expecting me to take them in out of duty. I confronted them about their lack of responsibility as parents. They mentioned handing their house over to my sister, seeing it as another tactic to impose on me. They even suggested she could pay rent to stay in my house, which I could use towards my mortgage. I firmly declined, stating that my sister needs to manage her own financial challenges without my involvement. As they continued to plead, suggesting the house was too large for just one person, I made it clear that my future plans did not include remaining single or accommodating them out of obligation. Their attempts at emotional manipulation didn't sway me. I reminded them of their past actions and how they had once treated me, emphasizing that I would not be guilted into compliance. Their strategy to use familial ties to their advantage was clear, but I remained resolute in setting boundaries to protect my well-being and future. After my parents left my home, looking visibly upset, I closed the door behind them. Despite whatever names they might call me, I resolved not to yield to their demands or let them walk over me. Now, on to another challenging episode in my life. I'm dealing with a complex situation that's been a long time brewing, and now it's reaching a breaking point. I'm 36, married, and living in Ohio with my 5 kids. Originally from Houston, my childhood was shaken by my parents' divorce when I was 7, rooted in accusations of infidelity against my mum, which were never fully resolved. My father, suspecting my younger sister wasn't his, left the family but financially supported me, paying for my schooling but not for my sister's. This differential treatment caused a rift that has lasted decades. As years passed, my father and I reconnected and grew close, a bond that didn't sit well with my mum, especially after he named me the sole heir to his $710,000 trust money. Since his passing, my relationship with my mum and sister has been strained further by their financial expectations of me. Despite their limited incomes, my mum works as a shopping cart attendant and my sister in bakery sales. They've grown increasingly reliant on me. My financial assistance began with small sums and escalated as my own income grew, fueled by a sense of familial obligation. Recently, my mom reached out with a request to money a $910,000 renovation for our family home, citing severe disrepair. The call was unexpected and placed me in an awkward position, knowing she was eyeing my inheritance for this. I refused, leading to a heated conversation that left our relationship on thin ice. Adding to this, my sister was getting married, and my mum secretly used my money to money her lavish wedding. I discovered this misuse and froze the account, causing a big commotion. Now, I'm contemplating cutting financial ties, which is tough because it could push them into further hardship. It's a harsh step, but I'm exhausted from being taken advantage of. This dilemma weighs heavily on me as I try to balance my own family's needs with the guilt and responsibility I feel towards my mum and sister. I'm torn between my sense of duty and the need to protect my own financial stability. We were discussing the trust money, and I initially agreed to lend up to $90,000. In hindsight, it was a hasty decision to offer such a large amount without much thought. Despite my initial reluctance, once I made the commitment, I felt obligated to follow through. My husband suggested a prudent approach: lend the money in installments and assess the progress of the renovations at my mother's house before releasing further money. I informed my mum of our plan to distribute the $90,000 in portions. To facilitate this, I reactivated an old bank account in Houston, transferring the first installment of $90,000 into it and giving my mum access. My mum questioned why I hadn't transferred the money directly into her account. I came up with a weak excuse, although the strategy was my husband's idea. I was hopeful but not confident that she would repay the money. 3 months into the arrangement, I had transferred a total of $20,000. It was becoming clear that their kindness was driven by financial interest. I felt deeply misled by their deceit just to extract money from me. Adding to the confusion, I discovered through a friend, whose husband is a wedding planner, that my sister was planning a lavish wedding. It wasn't just any wedding, it was described as a grand affair expected to cost around $90,000. I was hurt, not only by being excluded from the guest list of 210 people, but also by learning about the wedding through an outsider. I checked the bank account where I had been sending money for what I thought was home renovation. It was empty. When I confronted my mum, she claimed that the renovation was still pending, despite having hired a company. Her lies were becoming too much to handle. After realizing the extent of the deceit, that the money S meant for medical and renovation needs were diverted to money my sister's extravagant wedding, I decided to stop all financial support. I ignored their calls and texts. Regardless of earning more or inheriting more from our father, I could no longer justify supporting their dishonesty. I resolved to protect myself from further manipulation and false pretenses. It was a painful decision, but necessary to preserve my well-being and financial integrity. During a recent conflict about trust money, my mum reached out to my husband after I stopped responding to her attempts to contact me. I had previously warned my husband not to engage with her or any family calls, but he ended up answering anyway. During their conversation, my mum tearfully complained that I had abandoned them mid-renovation, breaking my promise to help financially. My husband, in the heat of the moment, revealed that I was aware they had misused the monies for my sister's extravagant wedding instead of the house repairs, which was why I had stopped the financial support. This slip-up by my husband infuriated me because I had wanted them to feel the repercussions of their deceit on their own. He also accidentally told her about how we knew the money for her supposed knee surgery was redirected to home repairs. After this, my phone was flooded with my mum's apologies. She claimed there had been a misunderstanding, that she had taken a loan from someone else for the repairs and was using my money to pay it back. It was hard to believe anything she said at this point. Exasperated, I finally agreed to talk to her, but only if she was ready to be completely honest. She admitted over the phone that they had indeed planned to finance my sister's lavish wedding by deceitfully asking me for renovation money. They chose this strategy because they thought I wouldn't find out, given my absence from Houston and lack of local contacts. When I pressed her about not simply asking for wedding monies directly, she claimed my sister had been against the idea, not wanting to feel indebted to me. During our call, I confronted her about using the money from her knee surgery money to fix up the house. She confessed that the house needed urgent repairs before my sister's in-laws visited, and in a panic, she fabricated the story about needing a knee surgery. Although I tried to remain composed during the call, I was deeply hurt inside. It pained me to realize how my own family could manipulate me for financial gain, exploiting my emotions. After hearing the full extent of their deceit, I ended the call and cried for hours, reminiscent of the grief I felt during my father's passing. He had always seemed like the only person who truly cared for me. A few days later, my mum left a voicemail asking for the remaining money to continue with the wedding preparations, still showing no remorse. Her callousness pushed me to block both her and my sister's numbers. I warned my husband sternly not to engage with them any further, threatening him with consequences if he disobeyed. Meanwhile, my aunt, who lives near my mum, mentioned that the wedding plans were struggling without my financial support. I felt conflicted. On one hand, I was saddened by my role in potentially spoiling my sister's wedding, but on the other, I felt justified in protecting myself from further exploitation. On the wedding day, my mum's last message declared she was disowning me, a statement that left me devastated. Despite the accusations of being cruel and selfish, I knew I had to stand by my decision to cut them off financially. My friend, whose husband was involved in planning the wedding, informed me that the event might be cancelled due to unpaid bills. She inquired if I would help, but I decided against it, choosing instead to stand firm and not contribute further to a facade maintained by deceit. I found myself recalling the painful moment when I listened to my mother's last voicemail, announcing she had disowned me. I wondered why I had exerted so much effort for them when the end result was rejection. Perhaps my responses weren't always perfect, but they were provoked by their hurtful actions. To distract myself and the kids, I turned off my phone and we spent the day out. The next day, my friend called, upset about the damage the recent wedding had done to her husband's reputation. Apparently, on the wedding day, my mom and sister had desperately asked her husband to pull together basic arrangements and promised an additional $30,000 on top of the already paid $40,000, which just covered the venue. Despite his efforts to provide decent food and decor, the wedding was poorly received by the guests and the groom's family, leading to harsh criticism. In a scramble to deflect blame, my sister accused the wedding planner of ruining everything, a sentiment echoed by others. My friend's husband, though angry, stayed silent to protect my sister's future at my mother's request, bearing the blame himself. Yet, the promised additional payment was never made. Hearing about the ordeal made me feel a deep embarrassment for my family. I remained silent as my friend vented, not wishing to add to the drama. She reassured me that she didn't blame me, but simply needed to express her frustrations. Despite my own embarrassment, my husband pointed out that the family had brought this upon themselves by living beyond their means to impress others. He reassured me that distancing ourselves from their deceit was for the best, and I couldn't help but see the truth in his words. Now, on to the next troubling revelation. Recently, after a night of drinking, my husband confessed his love for my sister. Although he was intoxicated, his words shook me. We had spent a pleasant evening drinking wine and chatting after a family dinner, but his unexpected declaration left me stunned. The next morning, sober and silent, I pondered his words, unsure if they were just drunken ramblings or if they held a deeper truth. My sister, who had always been the modest type, had transformed herself over the past year, losing weight and dressing strikingly for the dinner. It was hard to ignore how stunning she looked, and perhaps in his inebriated state, my husband's true feelings had surfaced. Now, I'm left to decide how to address his confession. Should I confront him once he's sober, or dismiss it as nothing more than a drunken mistake? This dilemma is compounded by the old adage that a drunk mind speaks sober thoughts, leaving me to wonder about the future of our relationship and whether I could ever feel comfortable with him around my sister again. When people's inhibitions are lowered, especially in a state of inebriation, their emotions can often merge. This blending might lead some to mistake their lust for someone as actual love. This is something you might be experiencing, and it certainly warrants a serious, in-depth discussion with your partner. Without this conversation, moving forward in your relationship could prove very challenging. From personal experience, I can tell you that even if this incident is chalked up to mere lust, it might still cast a long shadow over your feelings and relationship. If there's a desire from both sides to salvage the relationship, I would strongly recommend both couples counselling and individual therapy to support a healthy progression together. I genuinely wish you the best and hope for a brighter future for you both. A similar thing happened to me once. My ex mistakenly professed his love for my twin sister while intending to address me. Despite his excuses, it became clear he had feelings for her and was close to me primarily to be near her. Eventually, my sister even started dating him, which was a hard pill to swallow, considering our competitive upbringing and complicated family dynamics. It's critical to have that heart-to-heart with your husband sooner rather than later. If he's behaving as if nothing happened, you might wonder if he even remembers his words. But remember, drunk words are sober thoughts. If you've noticed any previous behaviours that made you uneasy about his interactions with your sister, those need to be addressed. Ask him directly, face to face, about his feelings. His immediate reaction will likely reveal a lot about his true emotions. My husband always had a fondness for my family, especially my sister, who has been my closest ally and friend. We do a lot together as families, so his affection wasn't out of the ordinary. If he had simply said, "I love her," in a casual manner, it might have been dismissed as a drunken slip. But the way he expressed his feelings left little room for doubt. It was a clear, heartfelt declaration, not just idle, drunk chatter. Considering all this, confronting him directly and observing his reaction will be crucial. This confrontation will help clarify whether his declaration was a serious admission of deeper feelings or just a misguided comment in a moment of lowered inhibitions. That night, after my sister and her husband had left and we continued drinking, I confronted my husband about the love declaration he made. Surprisingly, he wasn't shocked or surprised by what he had said, only that he couldn't recall saying it. When I probed whether he had feelings for my sister before we started drinking, he admitted that he had always thought highly of her because she is kind and warm-hearted. He mentioned that her recent weight loss seemed to boost her confidence, making her appear even more beautiful, and confessed that his drunken self might have found her attractive. He tried to rationalize his thoughts by saying it's natural for people to find others attractive, and that his remarks were just a reflection of that momentary feeling. He reassured me that, despite her beauty and the affection he holds for her, I am his wife and the mother of his children, and his commitment is to me. However, he became defensive when I pushed with hypothetical scenarios about choosing between us if circumstances were different. He expressed frustration over what he called hypothetical games, arguing they lead to unnecessary conflicts over things that don't matter. After calming down, he reiterated his love for me, emphasizing that I shouldn't overthink his drunken ramblings. Despite his reassurances, I can't help but feel troubled. The thought of him possibly viewing me as a surrogate for his feelings towards my sister gnaws at me. It's daunting to imagine sharing intimate moments with him again, fearing my mind might wander to comparisons or doubt his sincerity. The proximity to my sister makes it even harder. We live just 5 minutes apart, and I often catch myself scrutinizing every interaction he has with her. He always speaks of her fondly, which makes me question whether he feels the same enthusiasm towards me. These thoughts have planted seeds of distrust and insecurity that are hard to shake off. After sharing my concerns and reading comments from others in similar situations, I've realized the importance of seeking therapy. It's clear that this issue is too complex to navigate alone. My husband has now acknowledged his feelings for my sister were more than fleeting and have been recurring over the years. He's promised that they've never been acted upon and assured me of his love and commitment to our life together. We've decided to start couples counselling to address these issues comprehensively. Moreover, he's agreed to give me space by not joining me anymore when I hang out with my sister. This arrangement might help me process everything without the added pressure of his presence. Although it's a relief to have these open discussions and plans for counselling, I know the journey to rebuild trust and ensure our relationship remains strong will be challenging. The thoughts of his past feelings might always linger, but I'm committed to working through this, hoping that with professional help and honest communication, we can find a way to move forward together. I was abandoned by my parents on my 16th birthday, just months before starting college. They made it clear they wanted me out so they could pursue their own ambitions without the burden of supporting me. Fast forward a decade, I'm now 26 and a father celebrating my son's 3rd birthday. The guest list was a mix of my son's friends from daycare, their parents, and some of my co-workers. Unexpectedly, my estranged parents, who had cut all ties with me, reached out wanting to reconcile. I warily invited them to the party. Our relationship had always been strained. I felt neglected throughout my childhood. Their focus was never on nurturing me, but rather on their personal goals. After they threw me out, I was forced to fend for myself, juggling jobs to afford living expenses, and eventually giving up my dream of a car to manage more immediate needs. During the birthday party, my parents showed a sudden interest in making amends. However, their true intentions surfaced quickly. They asked me for money. I was taken aback, but refused their request. In retaliation, they absurdly accused me of stealing $100,000 from them and attempted to sue me, a claim that had no basis in reality. This legal threat came after years of no support or contact, making their actions feel even more manipulative and unjust. It was a painful reminder of why I had distanced myself from them in the first place. Despite this, I've worked hard to build a stable and loving home for my son, far removed from the instability of my own upbringing. Growing up, my friends were great, but they had their own lives to lead, and naturally, they didn't have space for me to move in with them. Luckily, a distant relative, Uncle William, who was actually my mother's cousin, came to my rescue. He replied to my desperate email with an invitation to stay with him in Utah, on the condition that I help around the house and potentially work at his diner. Eager for a fresh start, I packed my bags without informing my parents or even bidding them farewell, as they seemed indifferent to my departure. Uncle William was a unique character, a bit eccentric but kind-hearted, and he had inherited a decent sum of money from his grandparents, allowing him to live comfortably without a direct family of his own. He ran a popular local diner and offered me a job there as a KFC cashier. In exchange for my hard work and commitment, he generously agreed to cover my college tuition. Working diligently at the diner, I proved my seriousness and gratitude. After graduating and moving on from Uncle William's home, I tried to repay him, but he insisted that he would call in the debt when I became a bigger success. Sadly, he passed away from a stroke a few years later, before he could see the full extent of his investment in me. I am forever grateful for his support, especially since he stepped in as a father figure at my wedding, a moment neither of my parents shared with me. As a child, and even as an adult, Uncle William had a strained relationship with his own family, including my mother. Thus, my parents remained unaware of where I had been and who had financed my education. It wasn't until recently that they reached out through social media, having been informed by a cousin who traced me after hearing about my marriage and child. They expressed a desire to reconcile and meet my family, claiming regret over past actions. Their approach seemed lukewarm, and I hesitated to respond. However, they quickly followed up, emphasizing their genuine intention to reconnect. Reflecting on everything, this unexpected outreach from my parents left me contemplating the ties of family and the paths we choose, or those chosen for us, shaping our lives in unforeseen ways. My grandparents were still around, eager to meet their great-grandson, yet it was clear they were playing on my emotions to make it happen. Despite this, I agreed to their visit, timing it with my son's birthday. I had no particular plans, but after discussing it with my wife, who's been with me through thick and thin for over 5 years, she was supportive as long as I felt comfortable. She understood my troubled past with my parents, who had ejected me from their life a decade ago. My wife had lost her parents early and was raised by her grandparents, who had both passed away recently. I sensed she yearned for some family connection at our son's party, though she never pressed it on me. Considering this, I decided to invite my parents for her sake. On the day, my parents arrived an hour before the other guests, giving us some private time. The encounter was strained, filled with awkward attempts at small talk. After introducing them to my wife and son, they remained polite and courteous initially. But the atmosphere shifted when my wife stepped into the kitchen to prepare tea for my dad. That's when my mother seized the moment to reveal their true intent. They weren't just here to reconcile, but were in dire need of financial help. They confessed to squandering much of their savings on travels, and now found themselves struggling to manage their bills. They knew my wife and I were in stable financial positions, she as a mortgage broker and I in branch manager. The sincerity of their earlier apologies faded, making it clear their visit was primarily a maneuver to solicit financial help. This revelation soured the mood, reducing their heartfelt apologies to mere strategic moves to secure financial aid. They had even leveraged their visit and the pretext of seeing their grandson to coax me into a softer stance. While their tactics were largely ineffective on me, they certainly left a bitter taste, overshadowing what could have been a genuine attempt at mending our fractured relationship. My wife, unfamiliar with the depth of my parents' past misdeeds, had initially been swept up by their show of remorse. Her own longing for familial connections made her particularly receptive to reconciling. Unfortunately, my reluctance to host them only grew as the visit unfolded, culminating in regret. I held back my true feelings initially, especially when she entered, smiling with refreshments, radiating happiness that I didn't want to dampen. As my parents subtly prodded me for a financial bailout under the guise of familial bonding, I deflected their inquiries, especially as party guests began arriving. My wife continued engaging with them, finding common ground easily, which contrasted sharply with my growing desire for their swift departure. The party's atmosphere lightened with the arrival of more guests, allowing me to immerse myself in hosting duties and the joyous task of celebrating my son's birthday. The cake cutting was a hit, and for a moment the tension ebbed. However, as the party wound down, my parents cornered me again for an answer about the money. Overwhelmed, I blurted out a sharp response and redirected them to mingle in the living room. Feeling cornered and needing to clear the air, I decided to address the elephant in the room. I gathered everyone and began what I intended as a candid speech about my turbulent past with my parents. While aiming to keep the tone light, I recounted how they had once expelled me from their lives, leading to a decade of silence, only broken recently by their desire to connect with their grandson, a gesture I suspected was motivated by their current financial woes. My narrative, sprinkled with humour, seemed to amuse the guests, though it visibly embarrassed my parents. My wife maintained a neutral expression throughout. I wrapped up the speech, half joking about my gratitude that their reunion attempt wasn't driven by financial greed, an attempt to lighten the mood that didn't entirely land as intended. As the evening concluded and guests departed, my parents left hurriedly, casting stern glances my way, though thankfully they spared me any confrontation. The real challenge came afterward, when it was just my wife and me. Before I could explain the full context of my parents' visit, she criticised the speech for overshadowing our son's birthday and unnecessarily shaming my parents publicly. She felt an apology was due, not just to my parents, but to our guests, for the discomfort caused. Her reaction stung, as it seemed my attempt to inject some honesty into the evening was now being viewed as a selfish spectacle. It was a tough pill to swallow, realising that what I felt was a necessary airing of long-held grievances was perceived as an inappropriate outburst that might have marred an otherwise joyful celebration. This misunderstanding underscored the complexities of handling personal and familial conflicts amidst social gatherings, leaving me to reflect on the balance between personal catharsis and public decorum. Reflecting on the contentious birthday party, I find myself torn between justified anger and familial expectations. It's clear to me that my son, being so young, wouldn't retain memories of the event, and most guests seemed amused by the humorous spin I gave my rather heavy story. My intent was to expose my parents' true characters, especially given their recent disappointing actions and previous estrangement. However, the fallout was immediate and intense. My wife, who initially encouraged the idea of inviting my parents hoping for reconciliation, was deeply upset by how I chose to handle the situation. She insisted I apologise to everyone for what she deemed inappropriate behaviour on a day that should have celebrated our son. I felt my stress peak, compounded by her reaction, which seemed disproportionate given that no guests expressed discomfort. Her response felt like a dismissal of my feelings, especially after she learned why my parents had really come. To ask for money, not merely to reconnect. In the heat of the moment, I argued that she was the one who had wanted them there, hoping she'd share some of the emotional burden. Unfortunately, my frustration only upset her more, leading her to tears. I tried to comfort her, but she accused me of being self-involved and hypocritical, a blow that led her to isolate herself in the guest bedroom since. Since that night, our home has been silent, with her unwilling to speak to me unless I apologised to our guests. But inside, I don't believe I was out of line. No guests have commented negatively on the incident, and I haven't heard from my parents either. It feels like my wife might be amplifying the situation in her mind, fearing judgment that isn't there. I'm stuck between wanting to maintain peace and feeling the need to stand my ground. I did invite my parents primarily for her, managing to keep my cool, initially despite their pressure. But when pushed too far, I responded the only way that felt right at the moment, revealing their true intentions publicly. This situation reveals deeper issues. My long-standing resentment towards my parents for abandoning me, and the fresh wounds from their latest betrayal. My wife's reaction, while meant to preserve decorum, overlooks the complexity of my feelings and our shared past experiences with my parents. I'm left pondering how to bridge this gap with my wife. I believe understanding and compassion should go both ways. I wish she could see that my outburst wasn't just about the party or our guests, but a culmination of years of suppressed hurt and disappointment. Reconciliation within our family, both immediate and extended, requires a deeper empathy for these entangled emotions. And I hope we can find a way to discuss this openly, beyond the surface tensions. I realised I could apologise to my wife for calling her self-involved. That wasn't fair or right, and I regret that. Beyond that, though, I genuinely felt there wasn't much more for which I needed to apologise. I could perhaps extend an apology to our guests if necessary, but I stood firm on not owing one to my parents, especially not after their attempt to use my son's birthday as a leverage for financial support following a decade of estrangement. After seeing mixed opinions on my initial story, I decided it was crucial to clear the air directly with my wife, since that's the foundation of a healthy marriage. It had been 3 tense days of silence and sleeping separately since the party, an arrangement that hardly went unnoticed, even if our young son might not fully grasp the situation. This morning, before heading to work, I approached her. Thankfully, she was willing to engage. Our son was busy with his breakfast, giving us a moment of privacy. I apologised for my harsh words during our last argument, but expressed that I didn't believe the party was ruined by my speech, as nobody had even mentioned it afterward. Not the guests, not even my parents. I explained as gently as I could that I felt she might have overreacted. To my relief, she agreed. She admitted that once her initial anger had subsided, she recognised that she had been selfish and not fully considerate of my feelings. She acknowledged that she had influenced the decision to invite my parents more than she had admitted, aiming for a picture-perfect family scenario she deeply desired but hadn't explicitly voiced. She confessed that her reaction was tied to her own deep-seated needs. Having been raised by her grandparents after her parents' early deaths, she yearned for our son to enjoy a close-knit family experience. She wanted him to have the grandparental love and attention she cherished in her childhood, a vision disrupted by the reality of our strained familial relationships. She apologised for letting these personal hopes cloud her judgment of the situation, recognising the pressure it put on me. I, in turn, apologised for not being more open about my feelings from the start, acknowledging that better communication could have prevented the escalation. We agreed that therapy might be the best next step to navigate these complex emotional landscapes and ensure that our responses to each other and to family situations were healthy and constructive. This conversation was a breakthrough, a chance to understand each other's perspectives and emotions more deeply, paving the way for healing and stronger unity in our marriage. My wife and I have been attending individual therapy for a while, but given recent events and some other unrelated challenges, we've decided to start couples counselling as well. Thanks to everyone who commented with advice and support. But life threw another curveball my way courtesy of my parents. Out of the blue, they've slapped me with a lawsuit alleging that I stole $100,000 from them before I left home a decade ago. They claim to have finally tracked me down to get their money back. Needless to say, the accusations are baseless, and I pity the lawyer who's taken up their cause, must be desperate for the work. I'm not going to waste time on what I see as a ridiculous claim. I've already got my lawyer handling it. Following this development, my wife has retracted her earlier insistence that I apologise to my parents. She now sees more clearly the type of people they truly are. Previously, I might have handled their visit with more kindness, especially since it coincided with our son's birthday. Now, however, I see no need to hold back. I've decided to lay it all out online, detailing not just this ludicrous lawsuit, but also the past mistreatment I endured at their hands. I've gone ahead and shared every detail on my Facebook page. It's been about 29 minutes, and while I haven't received any direct responses yet, I'm bracing for the fallout. I mentioned how, despite family turning their backs on me in the past, they've recently been keen to rekindle ties now that I'm in a stable position, likely because it benefits them. My job in branch manager, potential connections, it all adds up to opportunistic motives for their newfound friendliness. After 5 days, the reaction has been intense. My parents freaked out over my posts, bombarding me with calls trying to get me to delete them. I held firm until they texted, promising to drop their lawsuit. I made sure to get that in writing. Post that, they blocked me. But the real drama came from other relatives I had named, who spewed vitriol under my post, targeting not just me, but also my wife and son. Ironically, it was their children who reached out to apologise for their parents' harsh words, showing more decency and maturity. I've since taken down the post, but it was up long enough to make its mark. Those who turned their backs on me have faced the music and, in a strange twist of fate, seen the consequences of their actions.